How are you guys doing? It's the Brandon Cruz Daily Fantasy Podcast, where I go and look alone plays and strategies specifically designed for GPPs. This is a show for people who are already informed in daily fantasy sports and how these contests operate. If you have your question related to NASCAR, just a stupid question, feel free to shoot them away on Twitter, BrandonCruzDFS. Most importantly, take everything under grain of salt and use your best judgment when making entries. Additionally, if you have a game addiction, that's just not my problem. Check your sense of feeling store. We're talking about the second Martinsville race this weekend, and I'm going to kind of attack this one differently. I'm going to start by looking at the value plays and the cheaper guys, starting down the grid going up, because that's really what the whole lineup construction is going to be this week. Obviously, we don't have a huge GPP. It's only 9,000 people. Not that big. We don't have to get too crazy. And on the other sense, we don't know who's going to lead laps, okay? And I'm just going to take stands on guys. I'm just going to tell you how I'm going to build lineups. I'm most likely going to play 5 lineups this weekend, and I'm going to tell you who I'm most likely going to play in those lines and how I'm going to project and, build lineups and everything. So, let's just get right into it here. So let's go ahead and move it here. So we're going to be starting at the back, and not going to really do a whole lot of, different lettering. Just going to tell you if I like the guy or not based on my projections and where I have everybody at this weekend. And so right now, early in the week, the optimizer is either wanting to punt with Half or play in the $5,000 range, and we'll slowly get through the drivers that we're wanting to use. And so let me get that squared away there. So I'm not using Timmy Hill. We're not going to Timmy Hill this weekend. No Timmy Hill for me. No Smithley for me. I think Half's the only viable option here if you're going to punt. I don't see a reason to play Cody Ware. I don't see a reason to play BJ McLeod. I'm going to have at least 2 lineups with Quinn Half this weekend, so he's in the pool for me. Justin Haley projected for 22 points. I got Quinn Half projected for 19. And in terms of, punting and things like that, I'll happily take a 4x return on Quinn Half if I can grab 4 guys who might be projected to get laps led. And so this weekend with Martinsville, we can either see a situation where it's a 2-dominator, like a legit 2-dominator race where you see 2 guys run away with it. We can see a situation where 3 guys are dominators and get out there and lead, or we can even see 4 guys get out there. And the reason I'm leaning more towards 3 and 4 dominator lineups this weekend is because it's a playoff race, a lot of variables going on in terms of people who need to win, people who should be fast because they've been fast at short tracks all year, and what to do with guys pretty much already locked into the next round of the playoffs. And so because of that, I don't mind Quinn Half. I'm going to be playing Quinn Half this weekend. That's just how it's going to be. I'm not playing Haley. Don't see a reason to. Too expensive for me. If you don't, if you're in the 5K range and you want to play Haley, by all means, go right ahead. Right now, I'm giving Haley 8 positions gained. I don't see it from Haley personally. Joey Gay's not going to. Josh Balicki not going to. Anthony Alfredo got him projected for 21 points, giving Anthony Alfredo 6. And if this turns into a wreck fest, which at this point, you just have to build lineups for Wreckfest just because NASCAR is a joke. And in that situation, then I see Haley being able to work out, Alfredo being able to work out, at least getting more than what I have projected. But right now, I'm giving Haley, like I said, 22 points. I'm giving Anthony Alfredo 21 points. So right now, he's just not in the pool for me. I told you I'm not playing Cody Ware. I'm not playing BJ McLeod. Corey LaJoie. I'm giving Corey LaJoie 31 points at the moment. I think he can finish around 20th, 21st. I'm fine with that. Not a priority for me, but a guy that I do have projected to hit 5x. When we get to Eric Jones, I got Eric Jones projected for 30. Don't see Eric Jones passing 20th this weekend. Maybe 19th, but even in that situation, I'd much rather take the discount on Eric Jones and play Corey LaJoie. And so for me, I'm not playing Eric Jones this weekend unless Jordan can change my mind on the live stream, which you can tune in and see Sunday. Most likely morning, probably 11 a.m. Again, we'll keep you updated through there. Ryan Newman, got him projected for 31 points. Just not going to do it for me. Too expensive. Ryan Preece, I got Ryan Preece projected for 30 points right now. And the reason I'm giving the projections out for these guys is because I have a lot of these guys projected for very similar pricing or very similar projections in the 30s, around 31, 32, 33, 34, 30 points. Basically, everybody starting in the 20. I'm giving them around 30 points right now. Ryan Preece, I think Preece can pass 7 guys. I think he can be in the top 20 as well, or be at the fringe top 20, 21st, 20th. That's where we've seen him have speed in the 750 horsepower package. And when you look back at how Ryan Preece has done this year at these races, specifically when you look at Richmond, and let me bring Ryan Preece really quick. So when you look at Martinsville, it's statistically been one of his better tracks to where he can at least consistently finish 19th. I think that's a bit high. Like I said, I like giving Preece 21st, 22nd today, even 20th. right now on a good old Thursday afternoon. When we look back and how he did at the first Richmond race, finished 29th. Pretty sure he ran into an issue at the first Richmond race. When we look at the second Richmond race this year, he ended up finishing 25th, and so him getting a 28th finish or 29th finish at the early Richmond race, he got trap laps down earlier in that race, and he just really couldn't recover. Still, 25th isn't, the greatest thing to see at him at the second Richmond race, but at least he was able to not go a lap down as early. Martinsville is going to be a place where you're going to have guys multiple laps down, trapped multiple laps down. I think Priest is going to be battling around 24th, 23rd today. If anybody wrecks out, most likely a playoff contender if something stupid happens. That's why I'm giving Ryan Priest a 20th, 21st, 22nd place finish, because I think he's going to be running around 24th all day, and we're going to see issues in the playoff drivers. But for me, I don't mind Ryan Priest. I think him and Corey LaJoie in the 6K range is where you want to go. As we continue to move on up the grid, we'll give him a C right now. As we continue to move up the grid, we're at Stenhouse Junior. Yet again, projected very similar between Priest, Newman, Jones, LaJoie. Personally, I'm just not going to get to Stenhouse this weekend. Too expensive, and 7,200 is going to be difficult to get to when you're fitting in as many high dollar guys as you possibly can in this, because obviously, without practice, we don't know who's going to have the fastest car. I would much rather throw 4 drivers in my lineup at a chance of grabbing one of the lap leaders. Like, if you got arrows, Pierce gives the example. I mean, anybody can give the example. Like, if you're trying to hit a target with a bow and arrow, and the target is the guy who's going to dominate the race, or the guy who's going to lead a high majority of the laps, or not even one guy, but just landing on a guy who's going to lead laps, I would much rather have 3 to 4 arrows to try and land on that driver versus just 1 or 2. If you're building a lineup straight with like 2 dominators, whether it be Hamlin and Truex, Hamlin and Larson, whatever the case may be, if you're picking those 2 drivers and building a balanced lineup in the 8K range, then you need to land on the exact 2 dominators. I would much rather just build a lineup trying to grab 4 potential lap leaders. If I land on 2, great for me. If I grab a 3rd dominator, great for me. Even if I land on 1, at least I threw 4 arrows at it to try and land on it. And so, because of that, the 7K range is going to be difficult to get to. I'm not going to get to Stenhouse Jr. because of that. Cole Custer, Cole has been absolutely struggling. Right now, I'm giving Cole Custer a 6 positions gain. That's around a 19th place finish. That's rough. This car has been off pace. I've been talking about it for weeks and weeks now. I got to project him for that, because when you look back at his track history, and I don't want to dive too much into track history at Martinsville, and certainly entering next year with the next-gen car, we're just going to throw all these stats out the window. It doesn't really matter. But Cole Custer, 18th, 13th, and 29th in his last 3 races here. Actually, in his only 3 races here in the Cup Series. Because of that, I'll give him the 20th place. But when we look back at the last couple weeks, I know it's a different package, but still, Cole Custer's been off pace. We'll keep him in the pool, but I would be hesitant to really land on Cole Custer a lot, because he's been struggling this year, certainly late in the season. Eric Almirola, close to being a 5X for me. Just $8,000. I'd rather play Tyler Reddick. I'd rather get to Christopher Bell. If you can't afford those guys, obviously Eric Almirola is the cheaper of those drivers. We'll keep him in the pool as well, but not going to be a priority for me. Chase Briscoe, I actually do like when we look at how he's been doing on the road courses, when we look at how he's been improving as the years go by. I think he's the best play in the 6K range. If you're not going to go to Priest, if you're not going to go to Corey LaJoie, I do believe that Chase Briscoe is going to be battling inside the, what I got him projected for, inside, top 17, 16 this weekend. Add that onto the trend that we've seen him whenever he returns to a track in the Cup Series, the second time around this year. He's typically improved on his second visit here. And I think that just due to the fact of not having practice, he's been able to use that first race as practice. And so I like Chase Briscoe here. I also like Matt DiBenedetto. These are guys that I do have projected for 5X value. I do think they are underpriced, and I think they're going to be popular. That's fine with me. Like I said, it just all depends on how you make lineups, but that's why I want to cover who I like, That's why I wanted to cover who I like outside of the dominators, because then how I'm at least going to fill out my lineups. Daniel Suarez, I like him to hit 5X as well. Still a bit hesitant because we have seen Suarez run into some issues in this package specifically. Even at the road courses, we've had transmission issues. Not going to be shifting as much here. Obviously, you don't shift outside of the restart. but I am concerned about how this team has done at the short track races. 16th is what I'm probably going to give him today. He finished there at the first Richmond race. When he went back to the second Richmond race, finished 17th. 3 positions gained isn't going to be huge, but right now he is showing that he is, 18th, 17th, 16th place driver. Suarez has struggled here outside of the 2019 spring race and the 2018 fall race. The last 4 races here, he's ran into some issues, so keep that in mind. I do believe that's more of his driving style and him getting himself into situations that I would hope he doesn't get into. Hitting 5X for me, but honestly, like I'm probably just going to go to Briscoe over Suarez. I think Suarez is a pivot off of Briscoe because I think Briscoe's probably going to be popular. Same thing with Preece and LaJoie. I think Suarez might be the lowest owned in the 6K range that's actually a good play. Not playing Michael McDowell. I love Tyler Reddick. I think Tyler Reddick is underpriced. I can easily see him running inside the top 10 or at least get into 10th place in this race based on how he's been doing this year at the short tracks and based on his track history here. Like, I know he has a 24th place finish. Like I said, this is, last year it was a mess. The first spring race, a lot of guys showed up with the wrong setup. Some guys went laps down early. The second race last year in the fall, still kind of a mess. Like, I can't really hold that against him. I'm looking primarily at how they did in the spring race here because I think that is going to be a good indicator. And Reddick has been firing all cylinders lately. I just like him in the 8K range this week to easily hit 5X. When we get to Bubba Wallace, I think Wallace is a great play here. Are you saying that because he's won I don't give a shit about him winning that in the truck race. But when you look at how he does and what he's priced at this week, like Bubba Wallace at 7,600 is far, far, far too cheap. Been a top 20 driver in the last 4 races here, at 21st, in the 2020 fall race here. But I mean, that's a top 20. I'm fine giving Bubba Wallace a top 20 today, this week. And I actually have him gaining, 4 or 5 place differential positions this week. I like Bubba Wallace. And I think people are going to want to go to Ross Chastain over Wallace. Personally, I want to go Wallace over Chastain. I'm not playing Chastain this weekend. Buscher is the only driver in the 5K range I want to touch. And so this is why I said earlier, I'm not a fan of McDowell. I'm not a fan of Anthony Alfredo. I'm not a fan of Justin Haley because the only guy I see actually working in the 5K range this weekend is Chris Buescher. And if Chris Buescher doesn't work, if Chris Buescher busts, runs to an issue, these guys aren't going to gain enough positions to really beat out in the 5K range. Like, what is Alfredo going to do? Get to 29th, 28th, 27th? Maybe. That's not going to help him out tremendously. I don't see Justin Haley gaining, like 12 positions. And so for me, it's Chris Buescher or Quinn Houff. That's just how I'm looking at it. Austin Dillon, going to remain in the player pool, but he's going to need help. Probably my least interested driver that I do have in my pool is that 3-car of Alex Bowman, or is the 3-car of Austin Dillon. I like Alex Bowman. Just going to be difficult to get to him. He's $8,700. You have to build lineups getting to him specifically. Same thing with Christopher Bell. I like Christopher Bell. I like Alex Bowman, but you have to build with them in mind. Like, they aren't drivers that just end up in your line. You have to strategically build a lineup around them because they're in such an awkward spot in pricing. You either have to sacrifice one of the high dollar guys or, find a cheaper dominated. Like, Christopher Bell is most likely going to finish inside the top 7 this weekend. I can say the same thing with Alex Bowman. It just depends on who else you have in your lineups. These guys make sense as like one-offs, as guys that I think are not going to be as owned as they should be. I'm probably not going to get to William Byron. I think he's too expensive, and I don't like his upside. And like, obviously he has upside to lead, but in terms of upside between Larson, Elliott, Hamlin, even Truex, Brad Keselowski, Logano, even getting to people like Ryan Blaney, Kyle Busch, like Byron. This isn't an intermediate track. The places to play Byron were the last 2 weeks. That's it. We're at a short track here. I'm most likely not going to play William Byron this weekend. Kurt Busch can get there. He's cheap. I got him projected for 6th right now, but the issue is that, like, I got Kurt Busch projected for 6. I'm giving, Christopher Bell like 6 or 7. Same thing with Alex Bowman, 6 or 7. So there's a lot of overlay in the projections. Obviously, they can't all finish 6th. I think Kurt Busch is going to be popular due to the fact that he's cheap. When you look back at his recent finishes and his track history, like all you see is green across the board. In top 10 finishes, pretty much the last 6 races. I know we're not focusing on the high downforce package as much, but still, like, people don't give a shit about that. They're just going to look at the finishing positions and see that he finished well. 21st here in the spring, more of an outlier than anything. This is going to be a top 10 car. I think Kurt Busch is going to be very popular this weekend. He's in the pool for me, but this is probably a guy that I want to try and get different on, which is why I would rather go to Christopher Bell and Alex Bowman instead of landing on the ownership that I think Kurt Busch is going to have. When we get to Kevin Harvick, all these guys are in the pool for me, and I hate, people hate when I say like, oh man, I don't know how to project these guys, because I don't. When you're putting these guys in the lineups, like right now, I have Martin Truex Jr. projected for 76.25. I got Hamlin projected for 84.1. I got Chase Elliott projected for 56.35. I got Kyle Larson projected for 63.4 DraftKings points, and so that all isn't going to happen in one line. Whenever you make a line with these guys in your lineup, I hate saying assume because people feel like I'm not putting in the research here, but this is a week to where if I'm putting Hamlin in the line, like let's just say I put an X by Hamlin, he's in my line, I'm assuming Hamlin is going to show up and get fast laps and kill this race, get over 100 laps led, probably over 50 fast laps. You got to remember, this is a long race. The highest amount of fast laps and laps led points available, if I'm playing Hamlin, is because I see Hamlin being a lap leader, or I see him being a guy who's going to contend for a win. If I play Truex, it's because of that. If I'm playing Elliott, it's because of that. If I'm playing Larson, it's because of that. Oh, but Larson's only led like 4 laps in his career here. It doesn't matter. Like when you're building these lines, specifically at Martinsville, it doesn't matter what the projection is. They're either optimal or they're not. It's literally binary. It's a 1 or 0. Does Hamlin score over 80 points? If it's a no, he's most likely not optimal. If it's a yes, he's most likely optimal. And if he's not scoring 80 points, it's not because he's leading laps. It's because he's not leading laps. It's because he's not dominating. It's difficult to kill a race here in Martinsville and not score like over 80 or even like 70 points. If your threshold is 70, like it's difficult to kill the field and have a fast car and not score over 70 points here. And so if they do that, they're most likely going to be optimal. And so for me, the way I'm approaching this slate is I'm trying to get at least 3 of the guys starting inside the top 9 in each lineup. If I can get 4, that's great. If you're building with Quinn Houff, you have a lot of leeway to work with, and we'll start grading these guys in terms of who I actually think is going to show up. But let me bring this up on the side here. Like, for example, if you're kind of going the way I want to go and say you're using Chris Buescher and Quinn Houff together in a line, it leaves you $9,800 left for your last 4 drivers. Regardless of who you get as your third, whether you're in the 8K range with Bell, Bowman, Kurt Busch, if you're playing, somebody like Suarez, Eric Almirola, Priest, whatever you do, you're going to be able to fit in 3 high dollar guys. And so let's just throw in a 7K guy, for example, of this lineup. You got $10,000 something left. You can easily end up fitting Hamlin in your line really easily. You can end up fitting Larson in your line, Truex in your line. Like, I really believe that this is a easy week to do, if I can type that, 3 10K guys. 3 10K drivers in each line. Or, depending on how many lines you're going to do, like I'll probably end up playing 5 or 6 because I actually do enjoy the price and I do enjoy making lineups for this race because I at least I feel like I can cover a lot of bases. Might not land on the optimal, but I can hit enough guys that I feel comfortable with. So, like, let's talk about Larson really quick. Like, I think Larson has his best performance here at Martinsville ever. He hasn't been able to start on the pole hardly ever. I don't think he has, actually. Like, this is how much I pay attention to how he ran in the 42. Like, I just off my mind. Let's look it up together. I got a feeling Larson has never had the pole here. So let's look at that really quick before we continue on. All right, so let me bring this here. So I'm assuming and I use, obviously everybody already knows I use race for the price, so I like things presented on a spreadsheet, but I have to assume that this is what a lot of people are looking at. And so, okay, Larson started on the pole one time in 2017. Obviously had a car trimmed out for qualifying, only led 23 laps. He's not having to worry about qualifying here. When you look at how he's running or how he does in terms of qualifying, normally he's a 8th place car starting wise. Puts you in a hole, man. You're not able to get those early laps led, and you're still stuck. You're stuck in traffic. Like at Martinsville, unless you live under a rock and you've never seen Martinsville before, obviously when you're at this short track, if you start anywhere outside the top 5, you're stuck in traffic. Like you can't move up through the field. Your restarts are the only chance to get through, or if you have an extremely good long run car. If you start outside the top 5, like, hey, you're in traffic the entire race. That's why Larson has not dominated here before, because traditionally this wasn't his style of track. I mean, qualified. I mean, trimmed out for qualifying in this 42 car. And like, have we forgotten that the 42 was like dog shit? Like a joke of a race car. Like bad. Like he was wheeling that car around when it was junk. Like Kenseth, it made a meme out of Kenseth. Chastain has not been able to show any speed on the short tracks. Like, it's over. Like, what is Chip Ganassi throwing at this car? Like, they didn't have the equipment here. Like, I'm not holding Larson's, what is that? So that's 29 laps. Actually, that'd be more like 35 laps led that I'm seeing right here. Yeah, that's 35. And again, don't do math. Don't calculate things on stream. You always mess up, but at least land on that. I'm not holding that against Larson at all. I think that's being blown out of proportion. Now, will he show up? Will he get past in lap 3? I don't know. We don't have practice. I think Jordan was saying on Stacking Denny's, like, he's seeing Larson projected somewhere around like 25%. Like, everybody's going to be going to Hamlin and Truex, which I think you should. I think Hamlin and Truex should be the favorites. They should be the guys you look at. But you're telling me I'm getting under 30% ownership on Kyle Larson, and I think people are going to be worried about, the pole sitter at Martinsville. Like, we don't know who's going to lead laps. We have no idea who's going to lead laps this week. So if that's the case, might as well throw some Larson ownership in there. Might as well throw some Elliott ownership in there. Might as well have some Hamlin and Truex. And so, obviously, gun in my head, priority is going to be Hamlin. Probably Truex is going to be a secondary. Larson is secondary. I'd actually probably prefer Elliott over Larson, like gun to my head right now. But I imagine I'm going to have even ownership on these guys across the field. I'm not scared of playing Larson. I'm not scared of playing Elliott. I'm not scared of playing Truex. I don't mind the Penske guys at all. I don't mind them at all. Kyle Busch is where I get a bit worried. He's a guy that I might not end up having in lineups as well. I'd rather go to Ryan Blaney, and I'd rather go to Kevin Harvick. Let's change these up, actually. Let's do my interest here. Probably be 1, 2, 3, 4. Larson slightly over Elliott there. Probably 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are probably my my interest in terms of dominators. I'll have to make a lot of lines to end up getting to Harvick, to end up getting to Kyle Busch. But the top 7 guys I'm going to try and get in my lines. And so when I'm saying 3 10x drivers, if you include, 9K into that, so we're going to do 4 9K drivers. That's probably that's another type of lineup that I would look at. And so, like, say if you're actively going against, or if you're actively building towards that, I think you're going to have to include, people you're expecting the Penske drivers to show up very easily. And it's very easy to make a lineup with 4 9K drivers, from Harvick. Like, make lineups that have 3 to 4 of these guys in there. That's how I would do it. Like, That's how I'm approaching. And then who else am I using in those lineups? Well, it's the guys that I talked about here. I like Buescher. I like Reddick in a 3 dominator lineup. If you're building 4 9K, 3 10K guys, obviously difficult to get Reddick in there. But if you're building, 3 to 2 dominator lineups, that's the situation where I like Reddick. I like Briscoe. I think he's going to be easy to get into a lot of different types of builds. I think LaJoie is going to be easy to get into a lot of builds. Obviously, you can see why I'm such a fan of Half in this situation. Because if I project Hamlin for 80 points or 120 points, does it really matter? He's going to be optimal if he shows up and actually dominates this race. And so that's how I'm approaching this week. I think the real discussion is who do you land on in the value range, because you just have to cover your bases and build lineups that when you build lineups with like 3 or 4 of these guys in there, you're going to land on the lap leaders. That's just how it is. I'm not going to kill myself trying to, build one. That's why I'm not playing single entry this weekend. I'm not going to kill myself trying to pinpoint the exact 2 lap leaders that lead the top 2 amount of laps and blah blah. Like I'm just building to try and land on as many lap leaders and fast lap getters as I can. That's how it is. Obviously, I have my projections up on Patreon. You can see, my interest is where I'm leaning, like gun in my head, who I like the most. But I'm going to carry ownership to all these guys. And so thank you for listening, and we'll get to Xfinity and Truck Series not too shortly. So thank you for being here and listening.